In this video, we are going to understand how to use functions in Arduino programming language. So, at any given point, any program should have at least two functions in them, which are void setup and void loop. So, as you can see, there is a program on my screen. This is a simple calculator program which takes input from the serial monitor and then gives a resultant output on the serial monitor as well. So first let's run the program and see what happens. So you can see that there is a text here in the serial monitor saying enter an arithmetic operation, which I have defined here in the void setup. And in the void loop, what I am doing is I'm checking whether any input is given by user or not in the serial monitor. And if any input is available, only then we will move forward and we will interpret the first input given by the user as an integer. That's the reason we are using serial.parseInt. What this function will do is that it will interpret the input by the user as an integer. The second input, which will be put by the user, will be interpreted as it is, as a character, because it will be a symbol like plus or minus or anything. And the last input, which will be there, will be again interpreted as an integer. And now let's see how to give input. So here you can see that there is a bar at the top of the serial monitor. We just have to put our inputs there. For example, if I want 4 plus 5, and then I press enter, or you can press send as well. Here is the send button. So I'll press it, and then I'll get the result as 9. So I'll tell you how this happens. So whatever symbol is there, whatever operator is there will be stored in the character OP, and the numbers will be stored in the number 1 and number 2 variables. So we have a switch statement here. So what switch statement will do is that if the OP, the character stored in the variable OP is plus, then the result will be this. That is the addition bit of the two numbers. And if the character, the symbol stored in the OP variable is a minus, then the result will be the subtraction of the two numbers. And the same for multiplication and division. This the result of these operations will be stored in the result variable, and that will be displayed on the serial monitor, uh, which is being done by using this statement. So this is a simple program where we are only using the two functions. So now if I want to create a function of calculating any value, I just have to create another function now. Just a second. Okay, so now what I have done is that I have shifted the entire switch statement in a different function, which is outside the void loop function. So what happens is now I can call the function anytime I want, and I can get the value of the result. I can call the function from loop, I can call the function from setup as well. So the function needs to be written in this fashion. The first word which you have is void, which defines the returning type of the function. The second you can see is calc, which is the name of the function, and there are curly brackets here. So if there is any input values which you are trying to give to the function, those input values will be defined in the parenthesis, in the curly brackets. So now let's see if the code works or not. It has to work in the same way as it worked earlier. So here is our statement. It is asking for an input. So I'll just give it input of 8 into 6. So there we get the result as 48. So it is working fine. And now let's see the other methods, how we can write this function. Uh, so you can see that this is the function which is called over here. This calc c curly brackets and then semicolon. This will be calling this function. The operation will be performed here, the arithmetic operation, and then whatever result is we obtain will be displayed. So if we don't want to use void and we want this function to be returning an integer value, then we can do that also. So int cal c is the function we have now, and this will be returning a value. So we also have to add one more statement here, which is return result. So whenever this function will be executed, one particular value will be returned, uh, and that will be result, and that will be of data type integer. And here also we have to create a new integer value, which is I'll just create it on a different line for simplicity. So there is an int r, and then I'm performing this action by which the result variable which we obtain will be the value of the result variable will be given to the variable r, and then this r will be printed on the serial monitor. So let's see how this works. Okay, so let me type the input here. So I typed 2 plus 4 and it is giving me 6. So it is working properly. So this is how you can change the returning type of the function as required. Okay, so there is another method also in which we can use the functions by giving an input parameter to the function. So let's see how that works. So we will be giving an integer input to this function, int num1, int number2, and finally the operator symbol also. It is not int, it is a character. So we will be giving the character OP as the input, and it will be returning an integer value result. So how are we going to call this function now? So there are three parameters here which we need to pass to the function, and here we have to okay, for understanding in a better way, I'll just change these names of these variables. For example, I will take n2 and n1. I'll just take o here. So in this new function, whatever input we are going to give will be stored. will be stored in N1 and N2, and this operator will be stored in character O, and this will be passed to function calc by using uh, N1, N2, and O. So first, let's check whether the program runs or not. So I'll just give an input as 5 into 6, and the result is 30. So the program is running as expected. So the only change which I have done as compared to the earlier version of the code is that I have added an input parameter to the function which needs to be passed whenever we call the function. So here we are calling the function, and here we are passing the input parameters to the function. And the order of the input parameters also matter. So if you are defining int number 1, int number 2, and then character op, then you cannot pass o n1 and n2 or n1 o n2. It has to be n1 n2 and o. If you want to change the order, then you can do this, and then you can do this as well. So this program will also work perfectly. We have simply changed the order of the parameters which we are giving to the function as the input. So if I do 2 plus 8, I did 5 plus 8 and I'm getting 13 as the result. So it is working properly. Uh, so let's move forward and see another way in which we can use the functions. If we don't want to pass uh, the entire values, the variables to the function, we can do that by using pointers. We only pass the addresses of the variables where the values have been stored, and we will get the resultant value, but we will be doing this without touching the variables directly. So let's see how we do that. So let's make it void because we won't be returning anything. uh, so now we will be passing the addresses of the variable, so we have to make it and n1, then and o2, and then and n2. And also we need to change the input parameters here in the function definition. So we are getting an address as the input parameter, and we need to uh, operate on the values which are stored at these addresses. So we need to use the star symbol here to denote that. We don't need to perform any operations on these numbers because these are just the addresses of uh, the variables, the values which have been stored in the memory. And also we need to change this to int op. No, actually we don't need to change it to int op. So this has to work now. Let's see whether it works or not. So there has been an error here. Okay, maybe because we have used long. So I'll just change it to integer. So there is another error. Uh, okay, so I forgot to change these variables also. So we need to add the star symbol here as well, because we are not operating on the numbers, we are only operating at the numbers which have been stored at these memory locations. So let's compile this code and see whether we get the required output. Hopefully now we will get the correct output. So it is asking for input, and so I inputted the value 4 into 5 and we are getting the result as 20. So it is working fine. So what we did is we are passing the addresses of the operands and the operator, and the rest is being the calculation of is being done here in this block of the function. If you also want to pass the resultant variable result as the parameter, you can do that as well. For example, if we do this, so I am taking a new variable res and I am giving its address to the function, which is going to calculate uh, the which is going to perform the operation and then give us the answer. I also have to make some changes here as well in the definition of the function. I have to add integer star result, and also I have to add the star here as well at each operation which is being performed. So let's see whether we get the correct output now or not. So there has been some problem. Okay, sorry. I had to put the star sign before the variable name. So now hopefully we will get the correct output. So I entered 2 plus 2 and I am getting 4 as the result. So we can say that the program is working perfectly fine now. So what we have done now is that we have provided the addresses of all the variables which are used in this program, the two operands, the operator, and the variable where the result will be stored. And without touching the variables directly, we are only dealing with the addresses in the memory location where they are stored. This is how we use the function in Arduino programming language. So that's it for this video. If you have any doubts, please let us know. Thank you.